and welcome to Tom Myers versus the rest of the world. As we're recording this, the Los Angeles Dodgers are one win away from defeating the New York Yankees and winning the World Series, thus marking the first time Jeff Hysen will be completely happy doing this show. Donald Trump appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast. NBC News described it as a wide range of cultural and political issues, which is a fancy way of saying they taught each other new ethnic slurs and stereotypes. Trump's campaign hosted a rally at Madison Square Garden in New York City over the weekend. Some people online compared it to the American Bund Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden 80 plus years ago, while others online didn't think it was a good idea. I should say Trump's campaign called it a political rally, but it was actually just people getting together and expressing their racist and sexist views, except instead of in the privacy of a backyard or a man cave, it was broadcast on national television. One of the speakers was a comedian named Tony Hinchcliffe, who said there was an island of floating garbage and said it was Puerto Rico. I thought the island of garbage was behind the podium. Tony Hinchcliffe is basically a corporate comedian that you would hire off of Temu. Tony Hinchcliffe is the comedian. Like, if you were to hire a comedian for an event off Craigslist and Tony Hinchcliffe showed up, you would think to yourself, I would be more relieved if he was a serial killer. And they flew in Tony Hinchcliffe from Texas to do that rally. That's the sad thing. There are probably plenty of New York comics who would have been happy to do that gig. Poor Shane Gillis probably saw Tony Hinchcliffe and thought to himself, you mean I got shit canned by Saturday Night Live for nothing? When asked about Tony Hinchcliffe's performance, J.D. Vance said that if he doesn't think a joke is funny, he doesn't laugh. Fair enough. JD, if you're listening to this, I know we've chipped you on here before, but if you want to test out your philosophy of not laughing at jokes you don't think are funny, and if you're available, let's talk. I can throw together an episode real quick. JD Vance said the blowback to Madison Square Garden was the media creating a fake outrage cycle. If there's anyone who shouldn't be lecturing us about creating a fake anything, it's J.D. Vance. Especially when it comes to the subject of non-white people. Put in that context, that makes it even worse. And J.D. Vance's kids, they're going to have a hell of a time when he scolds them for lying about something. Dad, remember Springfield?
Oh, God.
J.D. Vance deflected and complained about the price of groceries. This is a guy who did a photo op not knowing what a dozen eggs were. Like, not the price, but didn't know how many eggs were in a dozen. Although, to be fair to J.D. Vance, he's never known the price of dairy products since he still keeps his grandmother's breast milk left over in his fridge.
Oh.
For legal reasons, that's not true. To the best of my knowledge. Admittedly, Dennis Miller would have been a better choice for the event, as his act is conducive to a typical Trump rally. People getting bored and leaving early. The campaign did put out a statement that Tony Hinchcliffe's set did not reflect the views of Donald Trump or his campaign anymore. King's Dominion renamed their tallest roller coaster. It was originally named the Intimidator after Dale Earnhardt. They decided on the new name after Titanic and Hindenburg didn't fly well with test audiences. The Tampa Bay Rays are figuring out where to play their games now since Tropicana Field was damaged during Hurricane Milton. I'm not sure if they should do that before or after first figuring out how to play baseball.
Oh, no. Oh.
And now on with the show. Please join me in welcoming Jeff Hysen, Polite Kitty, and Jess Feeney.
Hey, Tom.
What's
Hey,
up?
Tom.
Welcome back. What's everyone been up to this week?
Well, Tom, I've been anxious to ask you, how does it feel not to be the most hated comic in America?
I tell you, since it's been happening, I've been trying to work my way back. I don't like the fact that I'm slipping. As a comedian, I need to be on my A game. Welcome to the final week before November 5th, the final 3 months of the 2024 presidential election, and the final 20 years of Donald Trump's campaign to be president of the United States, and the last 10 years in which he'll still be alive while he's doing so. No matter the results of the election, it will not change discourse. We will still be in our divided camps, yelling at each other in public and over devices into the social media rage room that will remain online in our screenshots forever. But it won't all be good news. Joining us on this part of the episode to discuss the upcoming election, please welcome back to the show therapist and retired educator Lucy Strausbaugh.
Howdy. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Hey, hello.
Lucy, welcome back. I don't know quite how fortuitous this is because I had you on, the very first time I had you on was the episode after the 2020 election, and now I'm having you on at least for now before this one. So I feel like it was a good way to bookend these 4 years, I think.
Very different vibe though.
Right.
This is high anxiety time.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you was, and I could get your perspective because you study this sort of thing a lot, is like I can sense vibes of not only 2020 but also 2016. Like there's some aspects of it I can see where I saw something in 2016 where the Real Clear Politics polls all showed Hillary Clinton leading in so many states and in the polls by this many points, like 1 or 2 points. We saw how that turned out. And in 2020, you saw the polls because of everything that was happening, Biden leading by a significantly higher amount. He ends up winning, not even really by a close margin. I mean, in several states it was close, but overall it wasn't that close. And now I see polls where it's Harris is ahead in one, Trump is ahead in one. And to me, really the only thing that gives me some semblance of hope is that, okay, Harris is kind of sort of an incumbent because she's a part of the incumbent administration, but Trump's also been an incumbent, as in he's been in office, he's done some stuff. Like, am I off base thinking like that?
Well, personally, I have not paid any attention to the polls in this lead up time because I don't trust them. Since nobody has landlines anymore, I don't trust whatever the hell it is that they are doing because it has been so wrong so often. And I've also been having to manage literally my anxiety regarding this election. And the polling just jerks you around. And I'm afraid it gives some people the comfort like, oh, whoever is ahead, I won't vote, And the other thing is, I think a lot of Trump voters, if they're asked who they're going to vote for, are too embarrassed to say who they're going to vote for. So I'm just not trusting on the polls, and I'm ignoring them.
That's ominous what you said there, Lucy.
I know.
because if people are afraid to say that out loud, which I actually wish more people were afraid to say it out loud, then they wouldn't hear them so much. But
I know all about that. You know where I live.
Yes, that's true.
And I voted today in Middle River, and it was a lonely place to be.
Oh yeah, that I know that. Mm-hmm.
Now, Lucy, do you think it's possible though that there are some people who are, especially women, who are afraid of saying, "I'm going to vote for a black woman" in front of their husbands?
I think that's possible, absolutely, in a lot of necks of the woods in this country.
But you can just do what what pollster Nate Silver does and say anything's possible, and then you're not going to get anything wrong.
Exactly. I will say it was extremely crowded. It was not as crowded as the 2020 election because I voted early then too, but it was very, very crowded.
But I want to make an interesting point here is that you say your anxiety has been heightened because of this. and I heard a lot of Trumpers out there saying, oh, I don't want to, I feel like I'm threatened if I say that, I'm a Trump voter or a Trump supporter.
Huh.
But, I see way more Trump campaigns. I see way more Republican campaign
Oh, yeah.
signs than I ever do the Democrats. And to be honest with you, my anxiety goes up because I'm afraid to tell people how liberal I am.
And you should be, because the other side are the ones who have all the freaking guns and don't think for a nanosecond they're not going to come out if he wins. And I think the fact that somebody like me at the ripe old age of 74, who when I was a teenager put like 50 vote for Eugene McCarthy peace candidate stickers on my parents' station wagon in 1968, I would absolutely, I like my car, so I'm not putting a bumper sticker on it. I like the house I live in. I'm not putting a sign in front of it, because these people, many of them are unhinged and violent and dangerous, hence my high anxiety. Yeah.
Sure.
I liked what you said about the landlines, because I think about that a lot as well. I don't know if this is what you meant, but a lot of the polls are conducted via landline, and not only do people not have landlines, but even if they do, they don't want to pick up the phone.
Ever.
Yeah. I'm wondering, do you think that there's a certain demographic that this affects, and is it possible that this could skew the polls towards Trump or okay, because
How are getting the 20-somethings and the 19-year-olds? They're not nailing those kids with questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my hope, as the teacher I will always be, youth is what could save us. If they all voted, it would be okay,
Yeah.
I don't know. I may have to I don't know. That's a tricky one, because I know a lot of the Gen Z, the 18 to 25 people, are voting for Dr. Jill Stein.
because they don't know.
Jeff, yeah.
They don't understand. Vote isn't about being morally pure. It's about strategic stuff,
Yeah.
and I made those mistakes coming along, and I regret them.
They don't know that Jill Stein is Russian for "we will help Trump win." That's who's
Right.
who's backing her. Yeah.
Exactly. Just, yeah.
I mean, that's a big part of why he won in 2016, right? I don't know if it made a huge difference, but I'm sure it made a dent.
And Gary Johnson also. He
Gary
was
Johnson!
That's right. Gary Johnson was.
Oh,
Yes.
God bless him. Get him back on the ballot. We got a week to go. Come on, Johnson. We need your expertise.
So I do want to go ahead and just share this clip real quick. J.D. Vance speaking, I think sometime within the last 24 hours, he was asked about Tony Hinchcliffe and his act during the Madison Square Garden rally.
It's telling that Kamala Harris's closing message is essentially that all of Donald Trump's voters are Nazis, and you should get really pissed off about a comedian telling a joke. Maybe it's a stupid racist joke, as you said. Maybe it's not. I haven't seen it. I'm not going to comment on the specifics of the joke. But I think that we have to stop getting so offended at every little thing in the United States of America. I'm so over it.
Says the white man. Yes.
Right.
In front of a crowd of other white people.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the nerve of him telling people who are offended, you shouldn't be offended and he's not the party who's offended.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm so over this premise that people choose to be offended. I know there's some snowflakes out there. I've been on Twitter. I understand. But it's so rare that why would someone choose the discomfort of being offended? If you're offended, it's because organically what was said or done affects you negatively inside. The fact that you can choose your emotions, obviously, if people are offended, it's not because they think it was just it's because it affects them on a personal level. We're not super cool to Puerto Ricans already. It's not just
Yeah.
It's not like we haven't fucked them over. It's not like Trump himself didn't fuck them over royally, and we can just have space to joke about them or whatever.
It's been very effective propaganda, though. Your crowd. Number one, many of them really F your feelings, and the rest are just sucked into the propaganda. They see us as Satan. They see
Yeah. The feeling's mutual.
Yeah.
I take a different tack. You see me as Satan? Great. My job's done.
This round table hole here has already a special place in hell, so come join us, I guess.
Donald Trump's support of extremist ideologies is not limited to the aesthetic provided at the Madison Square Garden rally, but also in the daily goings-on during his tenure as president, as this recording of an interview with former White House Chief of Staff John Kelly shows us.
He commented more than once that, that Hitler did some good things too. And of course, if you know history, again, I think he's lacking in that. But if you know what Hitler was all about, it'd be pretty hard to make an argument that he did anything good.
So what would you say when he said to you that Hitler did a lot of good things?
Well, I tell him that. I said, sir, first of all, you should never say that. But if you knew what Hitler was all about from the beginning to the end, everything he did was in support of his racist, fascist life, philosophy, so that nothing he did you could argue was good. It was certainly not done for the right reason. And but he would occasionally say that.
What would he say when you would lay that out to him?
He just, that'd be the end of the conversation usually.
I don't blame John Kelly for ending that conversation. I mean, I've had enough discussions with people where if they get like that, then you really have no choice. You're not able to get through to them. So you make your point, and then, okay, nothing else you can do.
Yeah, I don't know that he can really. I think this is a very rosy view of what's going on in Trump's tiny mind. I don't know that he can really claim ignorance. He knows who Hitler is. He knows what he did. He didn't do like a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, he had Hitler's Mein Kampf by his bedside. He denied it, but he supposedly did. What do you think? That was a work of fiction?
Right.
He may have.
And true, because it was under his first wife in the divorce deposition. She was under oath. She said it was by his bedside, and it was the only book she ever saw him read.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Not even Jesus.
Yeah, right. No, he reads it upside down.
Yeah.
The fanaticism of the Republican Party has been seen building up gradually over the course of the past election cycles. Each election, we think it has culminated only to be topped by the subsequent cycle. North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, running for the state's chief executive position, seems to be one of the many personifications of this idea, as we can see in this clip of him speaking to voters.
It was a time when we used to meet evil on the battlefield, and guess what we did to it? We killed it. We didn't quibble about it. We didn't argue about it. We didn't fight about it. We killed it. When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, what did we do? We flew to Japan, and we killed the Japanese Army and Navy. We didn't even quibble about it. I didn't start this fight. You did. You wanted to be left alone. You should have left me alone. We didn't argue and capitulate and talk about, well, maybe we shouldn't fight the Nazis that hard. No, they're bad. Kill them. Some liberal somewhere is going to say that sounds awful. Too bad. Get mad at me if you want to. Some folks need killing. It's time for somebody to say it. It's not a matter of vengeance. It's not a matter of being mean or spiteful. It's a matter of necessity. We have wicked people doing wicked things, torturing and murdering and raping. It's time to call out those guys in green and go have them handle them. Or those boys in blue and have them go handle it. We need to start handling our business again because, guys, what I said at the beginning about you getting in your cars, listening to your radio, putting on what you want to put on, and saying what you want to put on, keep thinking about it. Don't you feel it slipping away? Don't you feel it slipping away? The further away we get from the concept of 1776 and why we declared our independence and how we declared our independence, the further we start sliding into making 1776 a distant memory.
Like even some people in the crowd were looking at him and
Brother,
thinking, yeah, someone's slipping away.
Oh my God. I don't even know where to begin. It's not even funny, really. Like, is he in a church?
It looked like it, yeah. I
Oh
think
God.
that was
He was the one who said, and remember, for the people who didn't see the clip, he's African American, and he said he was in favor of slaves.
Yeah.
Well, he said he wants to go back to 1776. Like,
Yeah.
my guy, you would not have been doing good. What are you talking about, 1776? He was like, that's when we gained our independence. Who? Who did? Not you.
I was going to say it was.
About?
But this is a key. His insanity, not a clinical term, is a key to the presidential election, because Josh Stein is going to get more votes than he might normally get because Robinson is so extreme. And while people are there, they may hit the Kamala button too.
Let's hope.
So that could win North Carolina for Kamala.
I mean, let's hope so. Because Jesus Christ. I also love how he was like, we didn't argue. We went into Japan and we killed him. I'm like, I think we could probably argue a little bit about like the Enola Gay and like how ethical that was. I think that's probably still a topic of discussion that, is like, oh, we didn't argue about it. Yeah, and it was a little fucked up.
And there was probably an argument before they did it. There was probably
a
discussion.
I think they did. I think they had it. Yeah, they discussed it. They didn't just.
there was also an isolationist movement that took place beforehand, so we kind of argued about it for quite a few years.
Right. Again, they don't know history.
The kindest thing I can say about that guy and his ilk and the people in that Madison Square Garden, very unevolved humans, very unevolved, uneducated, and I'll stop there.
Yeah, the lack of education. I mean, and for something like 1776 and like and World War II, like we should know these things. Like these are like the big ones. These are the ones you're not supposed to forget.
At a time when the incumbent party in power is usually on defense, it is helpful for Democrats to have opponents who make themselves look like complete fuckheads. In this clip, we can see the Republican candidate for Senate in Wisconsin, Eric Hovde, bungling while leading a group in the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. We're all so blessed to be part of the greatest country in the history of mankind, America. America has given more prosperity, freedom to its people than any country in the history of the world. It not only saved the world once, but twice in the last century from oppression and tyranny. I'm proud to be an American. I love my country. So let's say the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Amen. God bless America. Go Slinger Speedway.
Thanks, Eric.
I'm not sure cheering for a speedway is going to go ahead and cover up that major slip up that you just made. Like we're supposed to be the ones who want to leave under God out of the Pledge of Allegiance, but at least we know what comes next.
Yes.
I'm surprised he didn't do like, the Will Ferrell Talladega Nights, shake and bake, bro. Shake and bake.
He looked like the type. He looked like a villain in that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I do give him a little bit of credit. Like, when was the last time any of us said the goddamn Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, yeah, true.
At least you put God in it.
Every for 42 years. But
true.
she was getting paid to do it, so it's part of the contract. They kind of make you do it, yeah. And they also make you do it at certain, because I did political campaigns for 10 years. Like it was obligatory. Like that was a thing you had to do. It was like hitting the archway before you go out for the big game, basically. Like it was.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's really hacked to say, but like, what a creepy institution to begin with, to pledge, and it's like little kids, like that's mostly who's saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and teachers.
Yeah.
But like, it just, if you had never heard of the Pledge of Allegiance before, and as an adult were told, oh yeah, every morning we have little children pledge their allegiance. Pledge it. Pledge means promise.
Yeah.
Promise
Yeah.
their allegiance to the flag. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is the last time anyone will ever have to say it. Maybe he ruined it for all of them.
Well, he
Fingers
also
crossed.
sounded kind of drunk when he said it too.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
maybe he was traumatized and he was wasted when he said it. That's why he bungled it up like that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
When do I get shoved in the locker again? I'll miss those days. And that's it for the first half of this show. I want to thank our guest, Lucy Strausbaugh. Thank you so much for coming on, Lucy.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you. Good to see
Thank
y'all.
you.
See you in 4 years, Lucy.
You're right.
When you cut through the noise of political engagement, what really helps people get involved in the political process is the arts and entertainment community engaging the American public. This is true whether you listen to Lee Greenwood at a Trump rally or watched Beyonce and Willie Nelson at Kamala Harris's rally in Texas. Joining us in the second half of this episode to go ahead and discuss the entertainment value of this campaign season, please welcome April Brucker.
Hi.
Hi, April.
Hi. And I have somebody with me, President Donald J. Tramp. I'm going to win, and it's going to be huge. I took a shot to the ear. And April, what do you say about taking a shot to the face? Oh, my gosh. That's not a funny joke. I'm funny like Tony Hinchcliffe.
Actually, that joke fits in very well for the atmosphere of this show. So go ahead, bring it.
But how are you doing after your assassination attempt? Reports of my demise are greatly exaggerated. I wasn't ready to become a car sharing just yet. Oh, Mr. Tramp. Mr. Tramp, so if you win, what do you intend to do for America? I intend to make America great again. Excuse me? I intend to make America white again. Great. Great. White. What's the difference? Okay, so there are a lot of women here. If they were to work for you as president, what would you say? Daddy's home. Now it's time for a spanking.
You know, this is what I love about having a show that I run. It's like, this week is the 4-year anniversary of the launch of this podcast. So
Oh, wow.
I feel like we're the Beatles. Like we just dropped LSD and we're going ahead and experimenting. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We're all going to jerk each other off. What? Sorry.
Hey, Jess,
That
what
happened.
are you doing later?
That, Jess, is the sort of humor we do not tolerate on this show.
That's right, Mr. Tramp. It's the sort of humor we do not tolerate. April, I like spring. You like spring? Yes, because I'm into girls named Stormy.
So April, thank you so much for coming on. I
Thank you.
understand. Yeah, I understand you did. You and Donald J. Tramp went to Milwaukee for the convention this year. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, we went to Milwaukee for the RNC convention, and the first day it was, everybody was excited. We went around. We went to Penzi Spices because we also filmed a documentary. So that Saturday, we're in Milwaukee. We did some stuff on the street, and this Secret Service car stops. And this guy runs out, and so I'm with my producer and manager, Clinton Ford Billups Jr., and he used to be a cop, and he goes, something's going on. And so the sirens were going, he runs out, and he's like, okay, maybe he's got to go to the bathroom. Well, that was the night that Trump had his assassination attempt. And he was about an hour away from where I grew up in Bethel Park in Butler. So the next morning, I'm laughing. I'm saying, I hope it wasn't one of my cousins that did this, because I have a few cousins that had to run with the legal system. Well, anyway, my manager says, good news, it wasn't your cousin. The bad news is the shooter's from Bethel Park. 3 streets over from my parents. So here I am. So the whole thing was nuts because everybody was afraid. Jon Stewart pulled out. Yes, John no-show Stewart. And Bill Maher, well, less than marvelous. He also canceled his show. The Daily Show was set up. They disappeared. So Donald J. Tramp and I were the only comedians to march on the RNC. And we had a little banner. We marched with the AFL CIO. So we were the only comedians. And what did you think of that? Snowflakes. And we were so afraid of the way people would react too, because, there were people that loved loved Trump, didn't like Trump. There were journalists who said to me, April, why don't you have a squid for his ear? Why is there not blood everywhere? I'm like, you're sicker than I am, and I'm a freaking comedian. So then, there were people that wanted the squib. Then one guy was giving out ear cookies, but this protest that was supposed to be like this big protest that everybody was afraid would get violent, and we were marching. It wasn't violent at all. There was a guy with a drum conducting traffic. We should have that all the time. A guy with a drum is more effective than any cop I've ever seen, honestly. Then they also had, there were these ladies from the RNC, these old ladies that were 80. They were delegates. They were getting drunk and they were watching the parade, waving. And I'm like, that's what America's about, man, And then the only time it got dicey was Westboro Baptist showed up. And we're marching and they go, is this all you had in your march, you losers?
Not the best line.
No, they needed better writers. This is what happens when you piss off the Democrats. This is where all the funny comics are, right? That's where all the comedy writers are. Yeah, and a lot of childless cat ladies are, comedy writers. And what about your running mate, Jethro Darth Vader? Yes, JD. He's my Harvard hillbilly, but he went to Harvard. Harvard, Yale, the hillbillies don't know the difference. So where is your running mate right now? Well, they had to get a restraining order against him at IKEA. IKEA? Yes, he wouldn't get off the couch.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but it was, but I'd have to say though, overall it was peaceful. There was one little guy from Fox News that followed me through the parade. He followed me several blocks. He ran. I don't agree with his politics, but he chased me for several blocks, interviewing me and Donald J. Tramp. So the next time I see him, I owe him a beer.
Well, maybe he thought that was actually Donald Trump you were holding in your hand. Maybe he thought you were kidnapping him.
Was I kidnapping you? Yes, she was kidnapping me. She puts on funny jokes against my will in my mouth. Hashtag me too.
Tom, April is the opposite of Fox News, because on Fox News, Trump has his hand up all of the hosts' rear ends, but April's reverse.
Yeah. What do you have to say to that, Mr. Tramp? I'm the best ventriloquist ever. That's what I say.
There you go.
I wish I could argue with that. It's not just the big names that draw people's attention to what's going on in this year's election cycle. In this clip, we see concert goers in Paris reacting to and enjoying a song about Trump's comment about Springfield, Ohio.
Out to all the animals in Springfield, Ohio. All the money made from the song goes to them. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets. All the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating saving the cats. We're saving the dogs of the people that live there.
I mean, that just takes like other countries laughing at us to like a little bit of an extreme.
Yeah.
I think like they see what's going on here, and they go ahead and appropriate it for their entertainment purposes, and yet I still love it.
Yeah, I heard that song on TikTok. It slaps. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty great.
Yeah. What do you think, Mr. Tramp? Well, it's the subject of my new book. Run, Scott, run. Is your book about eating the dogs and the cats? No. My book's about business. Business. Yes, it stops at chapter 11.
I love how lighthearted the show's taking before like total potential calamity. I love it.
Well, you got to laugh so you don't cry.
Yeah, really.
Go drop and be in a K-hole with those guys. I'm not teaching the dog.
Now that I have that stuck in my head, I was just with my nieces for a week and I had Baby Shark stuck in my head and Baby Shark, where are you? So I had the brain cleanse.
Glad I could help.
No, Tom, you measured the show perfectly because you balanced it perfectly because in the first half it was a heavy discussion. We had that insane Republican candidate for governor of North Carolina. We had Mitch McConnell. We had a discussion about Jesus and his followers. And now we got the talent of Donald J. Tramp and April.
Thank you. And Mr. Tramp, you know Halloween's around the corner. Yes, and I have a special announcement. What's that? Mitch McConnell is in fact a zombie. We knew that.
And finally, this election gives people the opportunity to act like complete dipshits, as we can see from this devoted Trump supporter in New York City.
The fact that he lived, he definitely just won the election. And if not, the people are going to know they stole it. Second of all, the fact that he got up, I didn't realize it until I got home, that they were trying to give us that Zapruder film moment of the Kennedy assassination live on television for 80 million people to watch. And they would have scarred your children, scarred your family and your nation for years to come like they did with Kennedy. And I'm just so happy that they didn't get that moment. And I hope Donald Trump gets Kennedy's head and his head carved into Mount Rushmore. Trump 2024, New York City, silent no more. We love you. And crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
I think someone should just give him a big rock and a hammer and chisel, and he could just go ahead and carve his own Kennedy and Trump into that and just pretend it's Mount Rushmore.
Truly, is his only barometer for like who a great president is like someone who's been shot at? Because I'm pretty sure that's the only thing that Kennedy and Trump had in common.
Yeah, and what do you think of that, Mr. Tramp? Well, I have a Kennedy on my cabinet. And how's that going? Well, he's not the only Kennedy with a hole in his head.
Can I ask Donald J. Trump a question?
Sure.
In the video, we saw Trump Tower. Is that where you live?
Yes, I live there all the time. And as a matter of fact, that guy just basically got a whisker. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. I had to throw that in.
One of these days, we'll have that conversation with Jeff. Jeff, you know the puppet's not real, right? We'll save that for often.
Well, funny story. When I was in Cleveland with him 8 years ago, one guy he was wearing a cowboy hat, real MAGA, sidearm, scary, Lee Harvey Oswald looking, comes up and says to me, why do you hate why do you hate Trump? And I was with Stand Together Against Trump. I had my talking points and he goes, I'm not talking to you. I was talking to him. And of course, my manager, he's like trying to get a cop. And Donald J. Tramp said something and he goes, if that's how you feel about it, fine. And he stomps off. So yeah, he got into a fight with a puppet. So you're not the only one, Jeff.
Love it.
It would have been
but
great.
You shut him up though. That's great. Or Donald J. Tramp shut him up.
Yeah, Donald J. Tramp shut him up. April Brucker did not. April Brucker had to do that.
Legal disclaimer, it was Donald J. Tramp. Actually, it would have been great if it would have been great if he had gotten into a fight with that puppet and then like he would have turned around and voted for Hillary Clinton probably. That would have been great. You could have been a miracle worker there.
Yeah, you could have been a miracle worker. What can I say? I'm huge. Well, and actually the funny thing is that in Milwaukee, after everything that happened, we hired a bodyguard, not for me, but for the puppet. The puppet was so famous that he had a bodyguard. Me, if I got shot, whatever, but the puppet had a bodyguard. I kid you not. And this was a former Milwaukee police officer who was built like a tank. And when I ran, he ran, and he was just amazing. And I love this guy. I'm not going to say his name because he prefers his privacy because of his work. But he was really good. So the puppet had a bodyguard. I did not have a bodyguard. The bodyguard was for the puppet. So this is where I'm at. My puppet is bodyguard famous.
Wow.
It's like I feel so inadequate now. Like I've gotten like a couple death threats, but it's like a puppet's gotten a bodyguard and I haven't. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong, Donald J. Tramp? Tell me.
My puppet has the bodyguard, so what am I doing wrong? I feel.
So the bodyguard would have taken a bullet for Tramp, but not for you.
No, I would have been shit out of luck. Yeah.
And on that note, that's our show. I want to thank Jeff Hysen, Polite Kitty, Jess Feeney, Lucy Strausbaugh, and April Brucker with Donald J. Tramp.
Hello.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
But before we go, the very last final thought before the 2024 presidential election. So buckle in. As such, this is the 9th and hopefully what will be the final edition where we will have to answer yes to the question, are you better off today than 4 years ago? 4 years ago this week, the United States had just surpassed 9 million total cases of the coronavirus, with the bulk of the new infections coming from asymptomatic users. The United States added 1 million new cases 14 days after the total number of cases crossed the 8 million mark, making it the largest jump of 1 million cases in the United States since the start of the pandemic. In what was described as a positive diagnosis every second by CNN, October 2020 ended with 9.03 million cases and 229,954 deaths in the United States. Florida had the third highest growth in new cases following California and Texas. 45.5 million cases were reported worldwide with over 1 million deaths, according to the numbers provided by the Centers for Disease Control and Johns Hopkins. By the way, this all occurred after then President Trump, back in March of 2020, had said the number of cases would go from 15 to 0. Finally, the most crucial aspect of this segment. In addition to the answer being yes for the question, are you better off today than 4 years ago? 4 years ago this week saw the recording and release of the very first episode of this very podcast. A complete takedown of an impending fascist and authoritarian takeover of this country means I may become so content that I may never have to do this shit ever again. And to some of my detractors who would find it joyous if I never took to creating content like this, just think of how goddamn relieved I would be knowing I may never have to try to make you fuckers happy again. Good night. This episode was written and hosted by Tom Myers with panelists Jeff Hysen, Polite Kitty, Jess Feeney, Lucy Strausbaugh, and April Brucker. Special thanks to Donald J. Tramp. Theme music composed and arranged by Jeroen van den Hurck. Executive producers Tom Myers, Matt Connarton for ipmNation, and Eddie Carson for Odyssey Radio. Please leave a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple Podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/Tom Myers, for access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, and bonus clips. Thank you for listening, and please visit tommyers.us.